From the campus lights to the game day fight, Texas dust on the boots, packed out stands in the sun. Every school has a story, every season has one. Turn it up, lean it close, hear that crowd start to roll. The Cory Hogue Sports Show, the Cory Hogue Sports Show. Big stories and real conversations, bring the truth, let it roll. The Cory Hogue Sports Show, the Cory Hogue Sports Show. For the schools beyond the spotlight, where the heart of the game still shows.
This is the Cory Hogue Sports Show, episode number 9, July 29th. I want to start with a big thank you to everyone listening. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Substack, what a great start, or Substack, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Today is a special day for one specific reason. It is my daughter's birthday. She is 25 today. So happy birthday to Allie. She has been, we've been through a lot together. We are about as close as we could be. I really just can't say enough about her. One of these days I might write something about her. She's just so awesome. But I hope she has the best birthday. Super proud of her. And she is awesome. Hey, have you been checking out my Substack? CoryHogueSports.substack.com. A lot of things up, been posting a lot of stuff this week. Got stuff coming out tomorrow. Stuff will come out on Friday. What's going to be coming out? Southwest Junior College Football Conference Media Day is tomorrow. So this is a bit of a shorter show as I'm going to go pack and get ready because tomorrow, Bullard, Texas. That's where I'll be for the SWJCFC Media Day. You'll be getting content from there tomorrow and Friday. Looking forward to being there. That is a media day I've been wanting to attend. It's usually conflicted. It's usually a week earlier and conflicted with like a lot of FCS and D2 Lone Star Conference, but I get to make it. Super excited. Really happy about that. So tune in, keep an eye on the Substack. You'll see some stuff coming from the SWJC FC. Also, it's Wednesday. So tomorrow night, after the media day, I'm going to hustle back because we've got March to the Pod on, and don't forget the March to the Pod Substack. There's some good stuff. If you like Sam Houston, you know, they were FCS for a while, for a long while. They were Lone Star Conference. Some great stuff over there on marchtothepod.substack.com. Remember, it's the number 2, marchtothepod.substack.com. And Thursday night, 6 o'clock, live on the March to the Pod Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube channels. You can see the podcast with Ben Sorrells and I. Ben Sorrells, the guy who knows Sam Houston. One last thing here before we get really going into today's show. Friday morning, we will have a show here at 1 o'clock. Friday morning at 11, I'm going to hop on the Weekend Big Show with Law Dog Sports. Chuck Ramsey has invited me on again. Jeremy Schroeder, the hunk, the male hunk, I believe that's what we call him. It's going to be great to get that unholy triumvirate back together again for a little bit. 11 a.m. on Law Dog Sports YouTube channel, Facebook page. Check it out. It's going to be fun. Let's start this episode off like we do all the others. Let's keep it honest. Sometimes things just don't work out the way you want to. It's kind of how today's gone. Hey, not that I had a pretty decent night last night, but get started on my walk and sunshine doesn't necessarily alert or I don't notice it. And then all of a sudden we're stopping and she's using the restroom all the way through someone's yard. And that's frustrating. I'm trying to eat my yogurt this morning and drop it all over the place. It's about how you respond. We talk about earning victories, effort, attitude, response. This is the response, the no excuses and never quit. But this is the response part, and that's been the part that's challenged, a proper response. How do you respond to those things? I didn't respond the the best way all the time, but that's what we learn. We're going to make these mistakes, and it's a chance to improve. Now, with that said, let's talk a little more about earn, because I saw something on Twitter the other day, and I downloaded it here. It's Geno Auriemma talking about winning. As I've said before, Nick Saban calls it a poison. Success is a poison. That's why the hardest thing to find is consistent success. And here's Geno Auriemma. It's a little over a minute long, talking about how that success is a poison.
Let me phrase it this way. The only thing worse than losing is winning all the time. Now, you've never experienced that, but I have. And what happens is you get into this mindset that I am being defined by how much I win, and that I'm associated with winning, and that losing then becomes a personal affront to who you are. And you have to really be careful with that. Winning didn't define you, but you allowed it to define you, because that's what the society that we've talked about does. So in order to continue winning, you have to, exactly what was talked about here, is you have to separate yourself and look at the reasons why you're winning. And most of them do not include you 100%. You're a part of the winning, but the minute you start to think you're the biggest reason why you're winning, I think that's when you do get drunk on your own success.
The first thing I find a little funny about that is how he says, you haven't experienced winning all the time, and I have. If, ego is the enemy, and there's one thing Geno Auriemma, he's got a bit of an ego, and, rightfully so. That's him. That's kind of his style, how he's raised, where he's from, and all of that. But I did find that part funny. But the thing I think he really stated there I want to hit on is that you can't let success be your identity. It's not who you are. It's what you're doing. And when you forget the process, as Nick Saban calls it, and I call, the earning to earn those wins. That's how you keep that process going. That's how you sustain success. You got to remember that you are not alone in doing it. For ultimate success requires some fortune. It just does. You don't win a national championship without some fortune in any sport, because you got to avoid some injuries. You've got to have things kind of go your way. That's just the reality of it. And if you think that you are the one responsible for the winning and the success, you will soon find out you are not. That's the point I take from Geno Auriemma right there. I think Geno is a person we can learn a lot from, but I really liked what he said there. Just can't let winning become your identity. And I think in some ways he has, and he did when he was at UConn, and some things that he's learned over his time. And you see, UConn is coming back into that conversation every year again. So, it's a poison. When success is a poison, and it's a poison because it can become your identity. You can think that you are that. Don't let that happen. That's how you avoid it. After the SWAC predictions, I've got a clip from Abilene Christian this morning. We'll talk about that and get into a little more here. But speaking of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, football season 2026 is coming upon us. It's time for the predictions. Friday, we'll finish our predictions up with the United Athletic Conference. But again, today, we're in the SWAC. Going to start in the East Division. The team that I predict to be last, number 6, Mississippi Valley State. They ended last season with a victory, but the Delta Devils still finished 2-10, and they struggle to consistently move the football. Too many questions on offense and throughout the roster to predict a significant move up in the standings. It's really tough there at Mississippi Valley State. The program needs to become more competitive from week to week before it can escape the bottom of the SWAC East. My question, can they find enough offense to remain competitive for 4 quarters? 5th in the East, I've got Alabama A&M. Look, they were more competitive than their 1-7 conference record last year suggests, but they just weren't able to finish the close games. The defense should have some quality pieces returning, and the offense has some good proven targets. Alabama A&M could become one of the league's biggest surprises if the Bulldogs receive consistent quarterback play and improve at their execution in critical situations. My question for Alabama A&M is, can they find the quarterback play needed to turn those close losses into wins? Number 4 in the SWAC East, Florida A&M. They're still one of the most difficult teams to place right now and predict. The Rattlers have enough talent and tradition to finish much higher, but last season's 5-7 record revealed some inconsistencies on both sides of the football. Look, FAMU was picked only 1 point behind Bethune-Cookman in the official SWAC East Division poll, showing how little separates this middle tier of the conference. The Rattlers have the ceiling of a contender. They must prove they can perform consistently before moving higher in this order. So that begs the question, can Florida A&M regain the consistency required to contend for the SWAC East title? Number 3 in the East, I've got Bethune-Cookman. They made considerable progress last season and did so in a pretty quiet manner. They were 6-6 overall, 5-3 in conference. They return a lot of established defenders. They're going to be difficult to score against. But taking that next step will depend on the offense and whether that offense becomes more explosive and consistent. My question for Bethune-Cookman, can they produce enough explosive plays to challenge an Alabama State or a Jackson State at the top of the conference? Number 2, SWAC East. I've got Jackson State. Listen, they battled quarterback injuries and still won the East last year before falling to Prairie View A&M in the conference championship game. Their defense, the Tigers' defense, is going to remain formidable. They only allowed 18.8 points and 111.7 rushing yards per game last season. They remain a championship contender, but the Tigers face a difficult road game at Alabama State on November 14th that looks to be the game that's going to determine who represents the SWAC East in the SWAC championship game this year. The question I have for Jackson State, can they find that quarterback play they need to reclaim not just the East, but the SWAC title and a spot in the Celebration Bowl? Number 1 in the East, Alabama State. This is a clear opportunity for the Hornets. They finished 10-2 last season. They return Andrew Body, SWAC Offensive Player of the Year for the preseason. Quarterback who was at Texas Southern. You remember Andrew Body was there for a couple of years. They placed a conference high 9 players on the preseason all SWAC teams. Andrew Body completed more than 70% of his passes, 20 touchdowns, only 1 interception, had more than 500 rushing yards. He's an incredible athlete, an incredible talent. And so Alabama State has that ability. They have the talent. They have the quarterback needed. They have the defense to win the conference. Now they got to finish the job. They narrowly missed last season winning the East. So my question for Alabama State is, can they turn what I believe to be the SWAC's most talented roster into the program's first conference championship since 2004 and head to Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl? Let's move on to the West Division. At the bottom, number 6, I've got Arkansas Pine Bluff. They showed some improvement during a 4-win season. They returned some dangerous offensive players. The Golden Lions also placed 5 players on the preseason all-SWAC teams. They're not devoid of talent. There is a talent on the roster more than their predicted finish might indicate. However, they got to improve on the line of scrimmage. That's where games are won and lost. And they must avoid stretches of inconsistency that resulted in 6 conference losses last year. My question for you, APB, can they turn the returning playmakers into a more consistent offense? Number 5 in the West, I've got Southern. They enter one of the more interesting seasons. I really don't know where to put them. They now have Marshall Faulk. That's right. Marshall Faulk is now the head coach at Southern, a proud Southern program. They were only 2-10 last year. There's going to be a renewed energy when you bring a guy like Marshall Faulk in. But Southern's undergoing so much transition. Just in my opinion, it's a little too much to expect an immediate return to the top of the West, especially with the quality that there is in this conference. My question for Southern is, how quickly can Marshall Faulk establish stability? That's what this program needs. They've had no stability lately. And a winning identity. They got to get that back. It's an expectation from the alums. Can they get that stability and that winning identity back? And how long is it going to take Marshall Faulk to do that? Number 4, the Braves of Alcorn State. They were only 5-7 last season, and they returned one of the strongest defensive foundations in the conference. That defense is going to keep them in most games. But listen, the Braves need more production from the offense. They struggled last year to consistently capitalize on multiple opportunities. That leaves my one question for Alcorn State. Can they develop enough offense to complement one of the SWAC's better defenses? Number 3, we're going Grambling State. They improved to 7 wins last season and appear positioned to keep moving forward. They were selected 2nd in the official SWAC West Division poll and should be more comfortable within the program system entering the season. But Grambling must still prove it can consistently defeat the top teams in the division before it can be considered the favorite. My question for the Tigers, can Grambling return, or are they ready to turn last season's improvement into a division championship run? We will see. Number 2, another team called the Tigers, Texas Southern. They enter the season with legitimate momentum. They were 6-5 overall, 5-3 in SWAC play. Chris Dishman is showing that he may be the guy that they needed to come in there and turn that program around. They have an experienced offensive foundation. They were picked 4th in the official SWAC West poll. I've got them 2nd. Who's right, who's wrong? We'll find out. But they appear capable to me of exceeding that expectation. If they find the reliable quarterback play, become a little more consistent on defense. My question for TSU, can Texas Southern find the quarterback play needed to challenge Prairie View A&M in the West? Number 1 in the SWAC West, I've got Tremaine Jackson's Prairie View A&M Panthers. His first season produced a 10-4 record, a SWAC championship, and nearly an HBCU national title. One of the best seasons in program history. And they're prepared to back it up. They should remain the team to beat in the West. They've got proven talent across the roster. Repeating is difficult. Again, the hardest thing to do is sustain success. But they possess enough experience and confidence to return to the conference championship game. My question for PV, can they handle the pressure and consistency required to repeat as the SWAC champion? So, I've got Alabama State from the East. I've got Prairie View A&M from the West. Who wins the SWAC championship? Who represents the SWAC? In Atlanta, taking the Hornets of Alabama State. I think they've got the deepest roster. They've got the most consistent quarterback play. If they stay healthy, I think Alabama State makes a run and gets to Atlanta for the HBCU national championship game. That is my SWAC football predictions for this season. Guess what? Fall camp started today for a whole lot of FCS schools. And Abilene Christian and their SID, Evan Nemick, he is tremendous. Braves. He's the best, one of the best. I mean, seriously, he is so good. Sent out a video today from practice. I clipped here an answer from Coach Keith Patterson, head coach of Abilene Christian, on what their they had intense summer workouts, raised the intensity level of the summer workouts and their conditioning. Why? Here's what Keith Patterson had to say.
For us to be able to advance and move this program, man, we got to get to the third round and beyond, right? We've already won the conference championship. We've played for it 3 times in 4 years. So, man, if we want to do something different, we have to, and want different expectations, then we got to do something different. So that's really what it was. It was just raising the bar, raising the standard. We put a lot of yardage in this summer.
One thing that really impresses me about KP is his ability to not look at the past. Like, he knows the past. He knows what they've done. But the ability to stay focused on the here and now, on putting that effort in right now, that's what's impressive. One other thing that has changed about college football, and he mentioned this earlier in the comments, I didn't clip it here, but he talked about how now look, college football is a full-time job. They're there over the summer. They're taking the summer classes. They're working out. Fall camp is almost just like, okay, right? It doesn't quite have that same – it doesn't have necessarily maybe even the NFL training camp feel to it. Kind of feels like we're just back ready. He also mentioned that they're darn near 50% of the way through practices for the season, because they're 12 weeks. They get 3 practices a week because they travel on Fridays and they're resting on Sundays, and Mondays. You get 3 practices a week times, so that's 36 practices. They're nearly halfway through practices already for this season, which is incredible to think about in that way. But listen, Abilene Christian, they are not looking for a regular season. They're not playing for 12 weeks. They say, in those comments, if you hear them online, they're talking about 16 weeks. I think they even have longer in mind. They want their dream is Nashville this year, the FCS title game. But really, ultimately, they want to advance further than they have over the last couple years. And to do that, they increase the intensity of their summer workouts. Like KP said, if you want different results, you got to do something different. And that is today's show. Thank you so much to everyone who is listening or watching, whether you found us on Facebook, YouTube, or Substack. We'll be back Friday. Remember, keep an eye on Cory Hogue Sports.substack.com. Got a lot coming out. Southwestern Junior College Football Conference Media Day. Also tune in to the Weekend Big Show on Log Dog Sports Friday at 11. Catch me there with the Unholy Triumvirate. Until then, stay blessed.
It's clear, sharp and bold, covering every team, every season, every story worth being told. The Cory Hogue Sports Show, the Cory Hogue Sports Show. Big stories and real conversations, bring the truth, let it